guillotine, and how do I remember it? Because you know there's a guillotine, right?
He invented it.
He actually invented the device that was carrying on the execution. So he was a doctor of pain control. So he was he was a doctor. He was one of the members of that trial. After that trial, Benjamin Franklin did not believe in those ideas of mesmerism or faith healing and all that stuff. And what they did is they did a first placebo-based trial. They took a woman, blindfolded her, and they had two objects, one a magnet and the other one wasn't a magnet, it was just a regular object. And they realized that it really didn't do anything. The magnet didn't do anything. She wasn't healed. So therefore, Anton Mesmer was discredited, and he died in poverty in Switzerland. But the funniest thing is that through that accident, we understand that it was based on, the healing was based on
Suggestion.
anybody? Suggestion, and what else? Imagination, of course. So imagination is another powerful element of the hypnosis. You imagine anything you want. All these modern books nowadays are writing about imagination, visualization. Visualize what you want. The more you visualize it and see it in your mind, the more you know you want it, and then you act and behave as if you have it. So you strengthen your beliefs in imagination. And this is, again, a trick of hypnosis. You build a belief system in a human being. You build a belief system in clients, and then it takes place. So Mesmer died in poverty, and after that we have an era of, even though he died and it was a sad story, people still took on the idea of mesmerism. A Portuguese priest, his name was Abbe Faria, in 18th century, he revived public attention to animal magnetism. And he introduced Oriental hypnosis to Paris. Except, unlike Mesmer, who believed in a force in the body, he first began to talk about the mind. He believed that the idea of magnetism, the mesmerism, which was called then, generated from within the mind. And today we use a lot of allusion to the mind, conscious mind, subconscious mind. Also, he talked about the expectancy in hypnosis. That was a major deal. His approach extended, well, that I'll talk later. Marquis de Pessager. Have you ever heard of Marquis de Pessager?
Rolls off my tongue.
A very strange name, but he was a student of Mesmer. And he was actually the first one who coined the term of somnambulism. Some of you probably heard of that word, right? Somnambulism. Somnambulism. Do you know what somnambulism is?
No, but I've heard it in the research.
Right.
State of mind.
State of mind, it's that walking state. You know how sometimes people, they wake up at night, they don't know what they're doing, and they walk and they do things? This is somnambulism. And he coined a word called artificial somnambulism. And that meant hypnosis. Because you could actually induce that somnambulism. There's natural somnambulism, that people just wake up at night, walk and do things, and then they forget in the morning. But he did this experiment with a 23-year-old peasant girl. He induced trance, and the kind of trance he induced was a little different from Mesmer. When Mesmer was inducing trance, people would have this kind of like convulsions and body movements. And when Marquis de Pessager induced trance, he realized that the girl went into trance, she was completely relaxed, and he called it artificial somnambulism. And then later on, like I said already, in 1842, the word hypnosis came in use by James Bray. James Bray, let's talk about James Bray. But I want to add something about the Marquis de Pessager. He was actually teaching hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and he was talking a lot about belief and want. Before he started his course in hypnotherapy, and he was teaching in Masonic societies, he would start with like a monologue, and he would always say to his students, believe and want. Believe and want, in other words, believe and want, and you'll be like me. He was saying that. Believing, again, the belief, and want, what does it mean, want? You have to know what you want, right? You see what you want, you visualize it, and knowing what you want, my personal opinion, is one of the most important things. Because how many people do you see around, walking around and saying, I'm depressed, I don't know what I want, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what I want to be happy, but what do you want? Do you want to go to school? Do you want to have a job? Yeah, I want a job, but what kind of job? So you have to be really clear what you want, and then visualize it. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of well-marketed books talk about those things, like Napoleon Hill, like that book Secret, that I haven't read, but I know what that book is all about. Have you guys heard of that book? You know, right? They talk about visualization. And this book was made for already like billions of dollars because the author of the book went on Oprah. James Braid, again, somebody who coined the word hypnosis. He was a Scottish neurosurgeon. He was also an eye doctor, and he it was an accident for him to get into hypnosis. He was very late to his appointment, and a patient was waiting for him in the lobby, and he noticed that while the patient was waiting, the patient was focusing on the old lamp. He was focusing his eyes on the old lamp, and while he was doing it, he was kind of drifting somewhere, and he was really glazing on that lamp. He came in and he noticed that, and he said, he gave a couple suggestions, and then he said, just go to sleep. So the patient went to sleep. He realized that hypnosis, you can actually use a fixation of your eye as an induction. And we have a lot of those inductions nowadays which focus on that idea, focusing your eyes on something. The idea of a swinging watch came at that time. You all know the swinging watch, right? It was very popular. That's how that idea started, and you can use anything to fixate your eyes. You can use glasses of a hypnotist, you can use a camera, you can use a piece of paper, you can use something on the wall, or the hand, stare with my hand. So as long as you have something to focus on. So this is very simple. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Well, I was just noticing, believe and want, the instructions are to engage both thoughts and feelings. And it's a pretty good system.
It is, yeah. Yeah. Like I said, you gotta know what you want. You have to have a goal. John Elliotson, 19th century, who was a professor at London University. He was fascinated with phrenology and mesmerism. He lived just about the same time James Braid lived. So James Braid came up with hypnosis, but you know, because it was at the same time, mesmerism was still popular.
What is phrenology?
Phrenology is the reading of the shape of your head. So they were looking at the shape of your head and they were saying, you have inclinations to be a criminal, you can be this, a scientist, and all that stuff. So they were basically making those assumptions. But there were pseudosciences, both mesmerism and phrenology. Though he was a professor at the London University, unfortunately, his interest in mesmerism took him into this collision with medical community with the hospital. So again, like Mesmer, he had to resign. James Aisdale, who was also very popular in the 19th century, he reportedly he did about 3,000 surgeries without anesthesia. So he used hypnosis, and he did not. But later on, when he was doing it in India, he was working in India, he was working in prisons. But later on, when he came to England, to Great Britain, he wanted to share that experience. He wanted everybody to know that healing can be done, surgeries can be done without the chemical anesthesia. But again, he was not taken seriously, he was laughed at, and there was another trial done. And what happened is, in that trial, they said that God meant people to suffer. And I'm just saying what they were saying then, as if he was blasphemous at his time. So then we have a school of Jean-Martin Charcot and Ambroise Auguste Lebeau. These are all difficult names, and Bernheim. They all founded a school called Nancy School, one of the first schools in hypnosis in France, in a small city called Nancy.